chaos. That's the only thing I remember from my life. I was born in Afghanistan. They executed my father because he was a general in the former regime. We were in a country, you know, where women didn't really have a lot of nothing, no rights. And we escaped the country. We were transported behind a truck to Denmark. Next to the refugee camp, there was these football fields. So me and my friends, we ended up standing outside the fence and then staring at teams playing football. I discovered that girls were playing football too. I've never seen this before. I knew that, you know, I wanted to be in her position. I wanted to do what she was doing. You've dreamt of this for such a long time, and suddenly you're standing there playing for the national team. For 1 second, I was in shock. I was like, and then after that, I was like, okay, it's just football, you know. It's just like me playing on a refugee camp team, the same thing. Because it's a war zone, you cannot just go and take the plane and out of the country. That's not how it works. So we had to be smuggled out of the country to our neighbor country, Pakistan. From Pakistan with fake passports, we flew to Italy, actually, in Milan. We were in a basement. It was very dark. Like, I didn't really see a lot from what was happening outside. Very, very, very dirty. Like, I remember the worst thing I've ever seen. And like, you had a little corner with a TV showing Eurosports with some kind of winter skiing jump, something happening. We were in a truck for, I don't know, a really long time. You know, everyone just gathered together in a corner. The truck arrived in Denmark. We actually thought it was London because the plan was for us to travel to London and reunite with family. For 1 hour, we were walking around because we didn't know where we were and there was nobody on the streets until we finally saw like an elderly man with his dog, and my mom asked, where were we? And he said, yeah, this is Denmark, and like northern part of Denmark, Randers. If you arrive in a new country with no papers illegally, you seek asylum. The first encounter with a Danish person was the police officer, and he is, yeah, the reason I guess who I am today and the reason why I want to like help other people is because he did so little, but for me, so much at the same time. And actually, I met him later on, 20 years later. He apparently knew who I was because I've said the story so many times, like in newspapers, that his daughter had sent him, was like, could this be you? Because the way I explained his feature, like green eyes and this. And I met him, and it was incredible. My siblings were crying so hard. Yeah, and I was trying to, you know, stay strong. I was like, I'm not gonna cry, but it was an emotional moment. And the reason it was so emotional was because I remember, you know, you've been behind this truck for such a long time that you don't know what's happening. You're hungry, you're cold. And we were sitting on like little chairs outside the door while he was talking to my mom, and my mom was explaining what was happening. And he came out, he looked at us, and, you know, he just made like the sign of hunger, you know, he's like, hungry, and everyone was like, yes. And he, you know, took us to a little kiosk. He bought some banana, toast, milk, that's it. And then it's, you know, it's those kind of small gestures in life that can have like a huge impact on people, like kindness. And for me, it just changed my entire, you know, perspective on how, you know, I want to be and what I want to be. She was a hero. Unfortunately, she passed away 2 years ago in a tragic accident. You know, this is still very hard to talk about because it's your mom, you know. She was an incredible person, like one of the strongest human beings I've ever seen. She was so tiny in my brain, you know, like not physically strong person. But her character, like the fire she had in her is incredible to explain. And like, you know, being alone with 5 children, and your husband has just been killed, and you take them out of the country, start a new life, and make sure that your kids, do decent. So incredible person. I do everything I've done, is to make her proud. We wanted to create a good life for her. I remember in 2017, 18, after the Euros, I bought her a house, because we wanted to do everything for her, and she was so happy that she had a place of her own, and just little things, and every wish she had, we wanted to fulfill. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time for me to do more for her. But one thing I want to do is her legacy. I want her to be remembered for the woman she was. I speak a lot about fate, and things happen because there's a reason for it. And I guess my fate was that I should have somehow ended up in that refugee camp, because next to the refugee camp there was these football fields. While I was there, I remember that we had to go to language school from I think 8 to 1, and after that you were free. And coming from a country where I wasn't allowed to do nothing, I was always inside. People were scared that I will get kidnapped, I will get killed or whatever, and not going to school, suddenly you have this freedom. Within a couple of weeks, we discovered there was these amazing football fields. And I remember especially one girl that later on became my friend, Cecilia Pedersen. The way they were playing, their clothes, I remember everything very, very vivid. And once I saw her, I saw the team. I don't know, I always explain it, with lights, violins, the moment with the air. And I knew that, I wanted to be in her position. I wanted to do what she was doing. I'm a very competitive person. I don't know, it's because in my dad, my genes, whatever, or because we're 5 sisters. So it's everything, you compete for everything. So once I started playing football, kicking around, it became a competition and / obsession. Who's gonna become better first? And because we all 3 were playing, my oldest, me, and my Diana after me. And we used to, I used to watch, we had this little TV in the corner of the kitchen where everyone, we had a mutual kitchen. And it was a lot German TV, RTL 2. And at this point, they were showing Champions League games as well. With the Beckham commercial where he kicks the fries over into that kind of stuff. And when I used to see something, I was like, wow, I want to try this. Obviously not the fries, but the bending. We were just obsessed about learning stuff. And slowly, one day, I gathered the courage. I went and asked the coach, I said, me on the field. And he said yes. I trained for a couple of months, and one day it gave me a little note saying Saturday 12 here, and I was so excited. I was running through the woods to my mom, and I said, "You know what this means?" And she said, "No." I said, "I need football shoes." And she's like, she's like, "Oh, I don't think that's gonna be an option." I was like, please. I begged my mom to take me to the secondhand store where, we used to get everything. And luckily I found these old 1946 shoes, Adidas, very, very, very old. They were too stiff and very heavy, but I didn't really care. And we went back to the camp, and one of the guys from Iraq, I guess he told me that he used to be a footballer. And he said, in my time, we used to put our shoes in water to soften up, in hot water. So I showered in them, but it didn't really help because they're too old. And yeah, that's how my story with football started. I'm one of those people, once I really want something, everything else blacks out. That's the only focus I have. So, certain people would say it's obsession, and I would say yes, it's correct. I was very obsessed. I really wanted to become good with football. When we got the positive to stay in the country for 3 years, we moved out from the refugee camp to a little house outside of the like I think 30 minutes from the refugee camp. Bo, like the coach from the refugee camp club, he called me and he said, hey, or called my mom. He said his daughter is going for a trial for a bigger team. The girl with the skill, yeah, full, Cecilia. He said, I think your kids could have a chance. Maybe you should send them too. My mom was like, yeah, no, I don't know. And we were really begging my mom, please let us go, please. And she said, no, I want you to study. Your school is important. You've started middle 6th grade. You don't know the language proper, like you need to catch up. So if you start doing sports, the school's never gonna go anywhere. So we said, I promise you to bring you the best marks, but please let us just go for this trial. So we went, but the problem was it was so far away. We had to like bike to the train station, take a train and then take a bus and then back, you know. So after school, you spend 3 hours on transportation. There was no time to study. We went to the trials, you know, and the coach was like, oh, you guys need to come. He was like, okay, we'll talk to my mom. We went back. My mom was like, no, I don't have the money to send you because it's too far away. But luckily for us, the coach, he was a little guy, his name was Pelle. He said that the club wants to give you the money from your transportation, so you don't have to think of that if your mom lets you. And we were like, Mom, you have no excuses, and I'll bring you, you know, the best marks possible. And she said, okay. So from then, like, you know, I started like the youths, the first time I'm playing 11 aside, and you know, under 14, under 15, and then when I was around 16, 17, it was, you know, the little newspapers, like some of the parents used to bring like the paper clip. It would say, oh, Nadim scored, and then this just got bigger and bigger, you know, and then suddenly it would be like a picture, Nadim again, and Nadim. And when I was around 16, 17, the national team coach was starting to pay attention to me, you know, under 21 coach, under 19 coach, you're like, oh. But I couldn't play for the national team because I didn't have a Danish passport yet. And when I was around 18, 19 years old, I got my Danish passport. And the next thing I knew, the coach called me, he's like, oh, we're gonna call you in for the first camp. It was in Algarve, a friendly tournament. I was sitting on the bench and the striker got injured with her groin after 20 minutes. And they were like, Nadia, warm up. And I was like, oh shit. I didn't have time to warm up. I just went. The first 1 minute, I was just confused what was happening because, you know, you've dreamt of this for such a long time, and suddenly you're standing there playing for the national team, and, you know, and the first one not fully Danish on the men or women's side. For 1 second, I was in shock. I was like, and then after that, I was like, okay, it's just football, you know. It's just like me playing on a refugee camp team, the same thing. The reason I want to come to Milan because, you know, Milan is like historical, always been like one of the giants in European football, especially on the men's side. The women's team is quite young. The league here is quite young in terms, if you see like time-wise. But I know the culture of football, like it's Italy. You know, like some of the world champions are from here, and you know the love that the nation has for football, and I wanted to experience it. You know, I've played in France, I've played in England. It was between Spain or Italy, and I was like, of course I'm gonna go play and experience Italy and Milan. And plus, one of my idol has played here, and now, you know, I've started to work with him also because of my sponsor is Zlatan. You know, since I've been a kid, I've always looked up to him because kind of maybe similar story, similar background. And I've always respected him because how he was on the field. He was 100% himself, and that's hard in our, you know, modern life or modern times to be always authentically yourself. So yeah, a lot of factors made that I wanted to play here, and as I said, it's been a pleasure. I can see the club has the ambitions, which is very important. You know, you need to be a place where you feel, okay, there's like a desire to want to win. And that's also the reason I wanted to come here first place. You know, if I didn't see there's no desire, I would have not come here. And I wanted to come here because I know I can contribute, to build a team, a winning mentality, a winning culture. So there's a lot of, great players, great talent. It's a good mix of experience, but also a lot of like younger, upcoming players. And I think that getting that right is important. I graduated medicine school in 2022, January 2022. Yeah, it was a hard-fought battle that I won at the end, and I'm so proud of it. My mom was there to see it, which was like a big moment for her also. And it just shows where there's a will, there's a way. And it shows that, we humans are always set in boxes and say, this is your limitations. And I don't believe in that. I think your limitations is what you make them to be. And then, and at the beginning when I started the medicine, everyone at the university was saying, no, you cannot do this because you're playing professionally or national team. And yeah, 12 years later, I was like, well, I could, I'm sorry. I was playing in Denmark, and we used to train or go to school at the morning, like from 7, 8 to 3. And then football was later on in afternoons. So it was possible. But once I started doing my master's. In master's, you have internship, 2 months, mandatory. You have to be at the hospital because you have a lot with your patients, and you assist surgeries, like it's slowly getting serious. I was playing in US a lot of the time, and this US season is longer, the off season is longer. So that's why I will study myself, and then I'll show up 2 months at the hospital internship, and then go to exams and pass. So I'll take 1 semester per year instead of 2 semesters per year. And then hopefully at a certain point I might be working for UEFA or FIFA while I'm a doctor. That's my goal, because I think FIFA and UEFA, they have so much power in bringing football in parts of the world where it doesn't exist, bringing it to girls, kids who don't have the options, maybe like me, and I want to be a part of that. And I think I do have a voice. I do understand how the world works. I've lived, in Asia, born in Asia, raised in Europe, lived a lot in the US, so I've kind of seen different cultures. So I think I could really help in FIFA. Imagine there's a race going on, 100-meter, and everyone's ready. Certain kids are gonna be already in the middle of the race because they're born privileged. Others are like 500 meters behind, but at least they're in the race. But there's a lot of kids who are not even in the race. They're outside the stadium. They don't know the race is happening. And I want them to understand that there's a race, and if you work hard on it, maybe you can get out of your situation. I think access to education and sports is something that I want it to be everywhere. I think it's so unfair to see that a kid who's born in Denmark, US, even Italy, automatically can have access to sports compared to a kid who's born in Africa, Sudan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India even, who don't have the same opportunities. I don't think that's a fair thing, It shouldn't be, your life shouldn't be, it is how it is, but that shouldn't be the case, that if you're born here, you have more opportunities. I would love to change that. And in terms of football, yeah, I would love to see, women's football grow even more. I don't think we're ever gonna get like a full, equal women and male. I don't think that's gonna ever happen, but I think we can get really close. I always say this, I'm a humanist. It's not because I'm a feminist or I am a realistic person. You have to give it a chance. You have to invest something for it to grow. You see it a lot of parts of the world, like for instance in the US, the women's game has grown so much, and there's like a huge market for that part of the game. If you invest in it, you have 50% of the society that you can actually build on and grow on. And I want that kind of everywhere. England is also there slowly, parts of other Europe is getting there. Because why not, At the end of the day, you want your daughter and your boy again to have the same opportunities. You want your daughter to say, hey, I want to be a professional football player if I want to. The option should be there. That's it. And if they want to take it, it's up to them. Not because, oh, you were born a girl, sorry, this doors are closed for you. Certain parts of the world, there's more doors closed for you. Other parts, there's only few. And yeah, in optimal worlds, I would love it to be a bit more equal. You know, in a world where so much is happening, I think humanity comes down to being kind, being a nice person, smile to someone on the street, say hi to them, like minimum. That's the minimum. Nothing's gonna, you know, and that little thing, that little gesture might change someone's life. And then, because at the end of the day, it's just like showing a bit of empathy, a bit of humanity, you know, and it's not that difficult, trust me.